Mondays through Fridays, 3:30 to 4:30 p.m. in the newsroom. You can't afford to miss it.
So we usually say that in the newsroom is a program designed as a laboratory for news analysis, criticism, and any sort of journalistic approach. And that is why we always have people with numbers of years of experience. Actually, they may be still serving, but they are qualified and journalists of high reputation who have gone beyond the shores of this country on this assignment of journalism. Then they are going to look into it. And we have among us too today who is a core historian who is going to trace the history of the topic we are going to dig into this evening. And I believe that you are going to enjoy them the more. Yes, it's Bola Tito. That is Babatunde Bola Tito. I have to Bola Tito. How are you, sir?
Thank you very much.
That is the historian man and journalist to the core. And the chairman of the chairman in a midst again, Babatunde Fanowopo. How are you, sir?
It's good to be here.
Thank you very much. Yes, we are delving into our own profession, how it came to Nigeria. That is in 1846. That is when printing started in Nigeria. And from there, then the person who established it, that is from Presbyterian mission and an Anglican missionary, Reverend Henry Tansel, is the one who established it under the banner of Christian Missionary Society, that is CMS, who established the first newspaper, that is after establishing the printing company. He established that one, the title of the first newspaper in Nigeria, according to history, is Ìwé Ìròyìn fún àwọn Ẹ̀gbá àti Yorùbá. Yes, let me put it from Bola Tito. Yes, you add to it.
Yes, Reverend Henry Thompson was actually sent on a missionary journey to Abeokuta. And Abeokuta has been enjoying a measure of independence before Nigeria came into the picture at all. I'm talking about the 17th century, as it were, when some free slaves found their way back home. And that is why if you get to Abeokuta, you find the mall, you find the kutis, you find the cokas, you find many of them like that, who are descendants of free slaves. So the tendency for the literacy level to be high at that period is very high, because when people who have seen the value of education come together, then they want to be more enlightened. And one of those things that makes enlightenment worth the while is information. And they have been accustomed to newspaper reading newspapers right from where they served as slaves. Most of them were adopted by their masters. For example, the Astrops in Elisha, the Totins in Elisha, and more, were adopted by their masters. And the name they gave, they bore their masters' names to gain access to the portion of their properties
of the master
given to them by the master. Now come back to
Nigeria.
The newspaper thing. Reverend Henry Townsend was pastoring a church in Ake, which was peopled mostly by the enlightened, those who have seen, who have enjoyed freedom from free slave trade and from the slave trade, and who have had the opportunity of education to some extent. They could read and write. So the fact that they could read and write encouraged Henry Townsend to bring printing materials from his country to start the first newspaper. Henry Townsend was not a trained journalist. He was a trained clergyman. So maybe there was no conventional way of writing news then. And the news can be written anyhow then. But at least these Europeans sat down to learn Yoruba. If you could translate the news paper's name, if you could call it ìwé ìròyìn àwọn Ẹ̀gbá àti Yorùbá, though he displays a lack of knowledge there, because Ẹ̀gbá and Yorùbá. But to them, he may be thinking of the kind of dialect they spoke in those days in Abeokuta, the kind of Yoruba they speak in Ibadan. You understand? They are different. But Abeokuta and Ibadan were so close when it comes to proximity. So the fact that our progenitors of those days, who have been out of this part of the world to the other side, who have seen it all there, encourage him to start that newspaper.
Okay,
and that was the beginning of journalism in Nigeria.
Okay, the former chairman of NUG, OSBC conglomerate, and when you look at Henry Townsend, a white man, writing Yoruba news for people, if at all, it may not follow the conventional way of trained journalism, but he did it then. A foreign person writing news for the Yoruba, then how can you see the justification?
Okay, was he actually writing? he started it.
Yes.
He initiated it. You know, it's one thing to initiate something. You understand?
It's another thing to write.
Okay.
When was he publisher?
Yes, he must have, engaged certain people to do the work for him. Okay, but the truth of the matter is that he started it. And if you follow the trajectory very well, from there, the nationalists too took it over. For our emancipation, for our freedom. From the colonial masters, that's when you have the likes of, the late Zik of Africa, floating their newspapers. I think the pilot,
the West African pilot.
Then Chief Obafemi Awolowo founded the Nigerian Tribune in the 50s. I can still recollect, and some others like that. You understand, and and they used the newspapers, journalism, the media, to actually, fight for our independence.
Yeah.
You understand? And we must give kudos to them. And one of those papers, the Nigerian Tribune, is still existing up till today. And when you look at it, apart from the reasons for establishing those newspapers, those newspapers are still putting food on the tables of so many people. You understand? Do you want to talk about the journalists working in those establishments? The printers, the photo editors,
yes.
The accountants. It's a big thing when you talk about journalism, and when you now want to talk about now. We are even looking parochially at journalism. We are not even talking about the broadcast angle.
We are still treating it.
So we are not even talking about that.
We are still coming to that.
So, and when you talk about the proliferation of media organizations, which is the major thing we are looking at on the show, because we are just laying the foundation with what the likes of Henry Thompson and our nationalists have done. You discover that journalism, today has become a household name.
Yeah.
You can imagine a world without information. How would it look like? You understand? So information dissemination, plays a very, very, very pivotal role in our daily life. Take away information, then there will be crisis. There will be no life.
There will be darkness.
Yes. From taking it from where today stopped, you discover that newspapers in those days were created for different reasons. He spoke about the likes of Chief Obafemi Awolowo establishing theirs to fight for the independence of Nigeria. The newspapers who came thereafter were also meant to do some other things. For example, during the military, there were newspapers who fought for democracy.
Even magazines.
And magazines who fought for the return of democracy. And who are those in charge? This time around, journalism has taken its stand. It is no longer the conventional way of writing stories. It has gone advanced with the involvement of research, investigation, and many other things.
And technology.
And technology that made journalism what it is today. So, as I speak to you, journalism is still evolving. It's an evolving thing. It has underwent a lot of positive and progressive evolution. Positive and progressive evolution in the sense that it has exposed so many vices committed by different people. It has spoken the minds of the people to the government. At least it has bridged the gap between the government and the governed. So, when after the Nigerian Tribune, we had the National Concord, owned by Chief M.K.O. Abiola, Weekend Concord, which is part of National Concord. We had the Punch, establishing and we had the champion newspapers. We had the Vanguard and the Guardian, springing up in different parts of the country for the purpose of informing, entertaining, and educating the people of Nigeria.
Okay, Chairman, let us look at it from this angle. We want to be taking the function of social media from the time of military. Then there were some papers, according to you, like Tell and some other magazines like that fought for the return of our democracy. During that very time, if you can remember that some people died on the cause, like people like Sarawiwa died on the cause of fighting for the return of democracy. I want you to tell us more about what happened during the military, that is the effect, the activities of the journalism during the time of junta.
Okay, if you want to talk about that, I keep telling people that there is no job or profession that does not have its hazard. Hazards of journalism are well spelled out. They are there. When you talk about it, you make me to remember people like the late Adeleke. You talk about Bagada Kalto. You talk about a lot of them who have paid the supreme price of carrying out their professional, duties, activities. Look at the way Delegiwa was killed. It was during the military era, and up till now, the reason for his death has not been unraveled. And when you talk about a death that the state is involved, it's always a difficult thing. Just like we have on the issue of the late Bola Ige, the issue is still rearing its ugly head again now, where there's this forth and back over who killed Bola Ige. It's just generating another kind of furore now. And you see that in the case of Delegiwa, the state was involved, and it was during the military era. You understand? And all that we had was that it was about leaking a particular, story, and it had to be stopped anyhow, because many healths would have, rolled, but it had to happen the way it happened, and up to now, that has not been unraveled. And when you juxtapose what happened then with what is happening now, because we have to be related, when you look at the level at which people read newspapers nowadays, do people read newspapers again? Newspapers, firms will tell you how many copies they were producing 5 years ago and what they are producing now.
Wow.
You read everything online. And that's talking about the new media.
Yeah, the social media.
When you talk about the new media, a lot of things are involved. You understand? Gone were the days. I could remember when I was still in the primary school. Each morning when I'm going to school, my dad would have given me money to buy his newspapers, Tribune and Sketch, then. So on my way to school, I'll visit the vendor stand, I'll buy Tribune and Sketch, put it in my bag, go to school, okay? So when I get to school, our teachers will be scrambling. Go and call me Fana Oko. Go and call me Fana Oko. They will read my father's papers, Tribune, Sketch, front and back, everything.
Don't pay anything.
So by the time I get home, Dad normally comes back, in the evening time. So when he comes back like that, he will ask me my papers. I would have read also some stuffs in the papers. So he would read, took his time to read. The following morning, Monday to Friday, we buy 2 newspapers every day.
Yes.
Until I was in the secondary school. As a matter of fact, there was a time I was I think I was in SS3 then, and my mathematics teacher, we call him Baba Mas, he used to call me, will read my papers. So something now happened, he now castigated me behind my back. You understand? And my colleagues told me, my mates told me about what the man said about me. So when I got back to the school, so that morning, he gave us a tutorial in the morning. He saw me. He said, Fano Oko, more paper and you're working worker. I said, I won't give you, sir. He said, why? I said, this is what you said behind my back. And you want to read my papers. You understand? Kuribe, Kiniko. We had to settle because I had to be frank.
Yeah.
How could you have?
You read my newspaper.
You read my papers every day, yet you still do this if you have my back. I think you get it. And I asked my dad that time, why were you giving me money to buy papers every day? He said, I had a mind of developing you. Have a mind of your own. Be able to read, know what is happening around you. And he was doing that intentionally. My dad is not educated, but yet he would buy papers. We must read papers. We must know what is happening around us.
Yes.
You understand? And he was always telling us, because we are just 3, he said, I want one of you to be in the medical line. I want one of you to be a lawyer. I want one of you to be in the banking sector. You understand? That has always been his plans, his aspiration. You understand? Fortunately, two of us, medical. Me, journalism. You get it?
The spirits are finally getting to you.
You know, so what he projected, he was able to achieve. And you know, this is what journalism can do. It's just a deviation. But what I'm saying now is that the rate at which people read newspapers, then the steam has really gone down. People don't read, you know, physical papers again. You read via
the
internet. You know, because if you are unable to be up and doing that, it will be difficult for you to remain in the system. So when you see all this, you know, news establishment, you know, they now operate online mostly. You know, they print few copies now. Even as an establishment, how many papers do we buy? And we need to review almost
all 10, 15. More than 20 sometimes.
So if you want to review about 20, you must buy 20 copies.
Yes. Not possible.
You know, where's the money? Where's the resources? So you have to go online. You solve everything you need to solve online. You understand? So this is the trend now. And don't even, as we go on in this program, we still let you know that even on the issue of reviewing papers online, we have even gone past that. Journalism is evolving every day. Every day it's evolving.
Okay, I want us to move back a bit because you are taking us on another realm. Right. But I want to look at how people are using media nowadays. Some people, you have said that some people, every paper or media house has a purpose of establishment.
Yes.
Nowadays it seems as if some people are doing it, establishing it for either for monetary purpose or for politics. Then when politics get into the media, when people are not trained because they have money to establish and dictate the tune of the media, or that is of their medium, then what do you think that we should be expecting?
You see, these days things are better, but in those days Awolowo was not a reporter, he was a lawyer. But
yes,
he established one. Abiola was a businessman. He established. Nnamdi Azikiwe is a journalist. That one is a journalist.
Sam Amuka
Pemo is a journalist. Nduka Obiagena is a journalist. We also had the likes of Joseph Taka and Dabo. They were using columns to attack each other there.
Don't forget that the Aboderi and Amuka established Punch together.
Yes.
Before they now separated. What happened then was that Amuka is a journalist. He's well grounded. Aboderi is an accountant. He has the money. So he brought his money. Amuka brought his experience for them to be able to establish Punch newspaper. But at the point they had to separate, and Amuka moved to establish Vanguard newspaper.
Okay. So as I was saying, most of the all newspapers of today, even if you are specializing in economy, there's no way you won't talk about politics. You won't delve into the political arena. The reason is this: everything in Nigeria, everything around the world is about politics. That is why a journalist must be grounded in politics. When you go to a journalism training school, they will take you training they will take you through academics in politics and economy. There's what we call political economy.
Yes.
So that is to tell you that you see, there was an argument between one of my mentors in journalism and a lawyer. A lawyer will say we are learned. The journalist will say we are also learned. And it got to a point when the journalist told the lawyer pointedly that we have been telling you what you don't know every day.
Every day, every second.
So who is learned? Who is more learned?
And you must read what we write.
We have God has imposed us on you that you must read whatever we write.
Just like what the former governor of Osun said, Chibisi Akande. He said to one of us that if I were not an accountant, I would have loved to be a journalist. He said, you know why? Huh? He said journalists can ask you any questions.
Yeah.
And you must answer. He said if God were to be here, a journalist will ask God, why are you God? And God must tell the journalist why is God.
That's the only profession that can ask anybody any question.
Oh, sure.
No, the one US president was asked, how many times do you beat your wife daily? The president got angry and went away. And he was forced to come back and answer the question. Because he has been told that
the power of pain.
Journalists will ruin your political career. And we are not ruining people's career. We just report the reality. That is just our job. And newspapers continue to grow in number to the extent that state government started establishing their own. We have the Hope, owned by Ondo State, Herald by Kwara State government. Odua Group owned Sketch.
Sketch, yes.
The moribund Sketch. And nobody is talking about bringing Sketch back. I don't know why anyway. And we have state government owning newspapers. Before the era of radio and television came in
the 50s.
Obafemi Awolowo also brought this. He brought television. And with the advent of the TV, journalism took another dimension. This one involves sound and sight, or sight and sound. Where you see the picture, you hear from the horse's mouth. But radio, you only hear the sound. We remember in those days, at least when I was a very small boy, what I know is that the old people in our street will gather to listen to a radio pasted to the wall. And you'll be hearing people talking.
Furniture radio.
You'll be hearing people talking. Hello. That is the only thing I remember. I was so small, so small then. And that was in the very early 70s. And later, state government started having their own radio stations. And the federal government had their own. The NBC of the olden days. Those days, you have no choice but to listen to the radio owned by the government. Later, Radio OYAO came, established by the military government of David Yembemo. He decided to establish it because he went to Radio Nigeria and saw everything. He also loved journalism. And he took permission from the federal government to establish one. And he started the radio station in Ibadan. Urita not to be precise. So there were two radio stations in Ibadan. The NBC and
which is national.
Yes, and Radio OYAO. When states were created, Ogun State out of Oyo State, Ondo State out of the same Western State, they had their own. And that was how it began to spread.
Okay. And we must let me take it up from there. I think we must give kudos to General Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida,
Oh yes.
The former military head of state of this country, who unbundled the broadcast industry. When I said unbundled, I mean at a point it was only the government, be at the federal and the state levels, that could, establish radio stations. But they said, why can't we give private individuals who have the financial muscle to do all these things to have theirs? And when they are bundled, that's when we have Raymond Dokwesi coming into the picture. And he held sway for so long before we started having other people coming on board, coming on board. And if you look at Osun State alone today, how many radio stations do we have?
They are speaking up
And
every
the
day.
number is increasing
They are
every
speaking
day.
up every day.
The number is increasing.
Okay, that is why I want us to look at the proliferation. Can we see that they are proliferating it?
If you call it proliferation, what would you should have asked us is it good? Is it a good development or not? It is.
To me, it is.
It is.
Anyone who is a professional journalist will tell you it is.
It is.
This millennium belongs to broadcasting. I must confess to you. No, that is
Oh, okay, but let us look at it. Some people, you could consider that everybody has objective or even objective of establishing it. Some people for their political selfishness, that is to fight.
But the NBC Act forbids that. You cannot establish a radio station for political or religious reason. It is forbidden anywhere in Nigeria. You see, we also have radio stations are in two categories. Apart from the radio stations owned by the state government or federal government, we have the commercial radio stations.
Community radio stations.
We also have community radio stations. So the commercial are meant for business, and commercial meant for rural development.
And if you are going into that, you must have a clear-cut, vision,
Yeah.
for going into it. Okay, I'm spending so much to establish this. Do I want to spend for fun? The answer is no.
No.
You are spending to make profits. Okay, if you want to make profit, what are the things I need to put into it? What is the level of motivation I have to give my staff to deliver? The market is saturated.
Yes.
And it brings about a very, very healthy competition. So when you are going into that, you think about your unique selling point.
Yeah.
What am I going to do differently?
And that is
To
where
steal the show
That's where creativity
comes in.
Creativity and aggressive marketing strategy.
So if you say you want to establish a radio station because of your political blah blah, yes, every actor has his audience.
Yes.
But how much of the audience do you have? How much of sustenance can your audience give your radio station?
And let us look at this aspect of what some people believe is to be self-censorship. There are some reports that some private stations can deal with, but government-owned establishment or radio or TV cannot. Even sometimes they accuse OSBC of some censored report that why can't you take this? Why can't you take this? The two of you are veteran. Then what is the?
You see, from my own point of view,
you hear it from another station, but here you can do that.
From my own point of view, there is no law anywhere that says you should not report any situation. No law. Let them bring the law that says a radio or TV station should not air any report, any kind of report. If there is any clear, our objective, the main reason for establishing radio, TV, is to inform, to educate, and entertain.
What about to serve government in power?
Look,
to serve the interest
that is
of
one
government in
thing.
power.
That is why we are going. Radio stations should be given free hand to operate. You understand? Well, it is when they operate that the people will have full confidence in the government that establishes or that is holding the sway in the state. I remember during the days of the military, when the NRC and SDP vehicles were parked at the governor's office, one would discover that they were just parked there for nothing. And Mr. Kayode Adedire, the director of News and Current Affairs, OSBC TV, instructed Femi Adefila, who is the who was the governor's office correspondent, do a report on this. Let's see. And the reason for doing that is, or was as it were, to be able to get some for OSBC. And when that report was heard, Commander Anthony Udofia went berserk. He was threatening here and there, a military man. At the end of the day, he was sat down by some traditional rulers. If these vehicles are here, at that time we had about 26 local governments. 2 times 26. NGP 1, NLC 1. 26, more than
52.
52. 52. If they are giving out as official cars to some government officials, won't it work like that? It was then that Udofia came to reason that okay, if that is what they mean, let's do it this way.
That is the
And the
success of the report.
To all intents and purposes, was anti-government.
Okay, now let me come in there. Today,
Yeah.
if Femi Adefila did not have a boss that knows his onion,
Yes,
that is savvy,
that's it.
what would have happened to him?
It's regret.
But he had a boss that said, okay, I'm with you 100%.
100%.
Go and do this. It may look anti-government at the initial stage, but at the end of the day, the government of the day received an applause
Yes,
for its decision on those vehicles.
yes.
What I'm saying in essence is this. He was talking about, you were talking about self-censorship the other time. Nobody is censoring anybody. After all, the reporting referred to was done on this channel.
Yes.
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 I never did not fall.
No.
I will give you another very interesting example. Oyeshiko Adelu. During the time we were still in Itakon.
Yeah.
So he wanted to do newspaper review that morning, and our DNC then, Baba Sam Bamidele of blessed memory, sent a message that there was a particular story. Fertilizer grows wings in Osun. You understand? And he sent one of our bosses to inform Oyeshiko Adelu not to review that particular story in the newspaper's review, because our review then was so solid. Every Tom, Dick and Harry would listen.
It was the only one then.
Even if it was not the only one, it is the most
richest.
Now, so the message was delivered quite all right. to Oyechi Kwadelu. But Oyechi Kwadelu told the messenger that, look, if you fail to review this, what will happen to the generality of the farmers of Osun who are supposed to benefit from this? So that they can give us bountiful harvest. The guy went ahead, reviewed the story, and everywhere was like, the messenger said, most of all.
You're on your own.
But the truth of the matter, he did it, and heaven did not fall.
Heaven will not fall.
It is you, it is me, it is us that we censor ourselves.
That's it.
Nobody is even looking at you. Imagine the current governor that we have. You understand? Okay, he made Femi Adefila the special advisor to the governor on OSBC. Femi Adefila has a radio and TV station.
Rival.
Okay, now on Femi Adefila's channel, they criticize the government.
Yes.
Even as an appointee
Of the governor.
But I want you to remind you something. A former governor, there was a governor in this state, that something happened in front of their secretariat. I don't want to mention the party. Then one OSBC car was passing that very place when there was odor. Then somebody took the picture and said that OSBC can fasten for a party. Then that one rocked many people here. That was I think with that one, do you think that people will not be very careful of their job so that they won't run foul of government?
Look, the truth of the matter is this. You know, it's part of the hazards.
Yes.
But just know what you are doing. You see, journalism is spiritual.
It is.
Whether you like it or not.
It is.
You cannot say black and call it yellow.
No.
Or pretty that if one doesn't see.
Or you've been induced to look away. You know, do your best that you can. State government owned, you said there is so much censorship in state government owned media organizations. Yes. Okay, for instance, Femi Adefila is the owner of Ray. If there's any story that affects Femi Adefila today, do you think we will
affect him negatively?
It is because it is the government that owns this place. All eyes are on us.
Yes.
But unfortunately, what politicians fail to realize is that today it is PDP. When tomorrow it is AAA. We will still promote that government.
That's it.
It is because it is owned by the government.
That's it.
And we must be seen to be promoting the activities of the government in power.
You see, the difference between us and other radio stations are clear. One.
Even in Tribune today, can they write anything about
against
our family?
Never.
So what are we talking about? Because it is owned by an individual. But if you call something a government is large.
It's very, very large.
And because it is owned by the government, they want to do OSBC tomorrow it is at all. We still promote
radio and television.
Yeah.
When the man had a problem, they never.
Of course.
They only come from another side. Can we say that journalism is not a profession?
Journalism is a profession. It is a profession because not because people earn their living from it alone. It is at least it's a job guided by law. Here and there, there are certain things you dare not do as a journalist. Anything that is bounded by the law. I think then, after the executives comes the legislature, comes the judiciary, comes the media.
As the fourth state of the realm.
So I think we have a place
Yes,
Okay, what they do to that one?
journalism is a profession,
It is.
but unfortunately, it is an all-comers. You know,
The job has been prostituted.
let me tell you, in newspapers management, they have a control.
Yeah,
In broadcast, there's a control.
yeah,
If you mess up, NBC is there to check you.
yeah.
You understand? But I talked about the new media not quite long. There's no control.
There's no control.
One boy can just wake up someday and say, I have a blog. And we start writing rubbish.
And be calling himself a journalist.
A journalist.
That's it.
You understand? But the new media is not controlled at all. And every effort by the government to say, okay, let us control this. You know, people have been hostile to the government about it. Because they feel that through the new media, we can just wake up one morning and express our views. Anyhow. You understand? But there must be laws guiding certain things. That's what the government is saying. But because the government too, at the national level or whatever, have not been up and doing.
That's it.
So people feel, oh, when they are calling for a kind of control, they want to gag us
And chaos.
and chaos, and we will not allow. So that's why you see these bloggers writing anything, and tomorrow a blogger can put my head on your own head and say, okay, it is you.
And they go scot-free.
That's it.
Because there's no control.
There's no control,
nobody
there's no
checking
there's
them.
no
Rules, there are no
Okay,
regulations.
so somebody described journalism as a market, as a traditional market that has uncountable vents.
That's what we're saying, the new media.
You read history, you become a journalist. Even you read mathematics, you can become a journalist.
Yes.
Even
But no,
You see,
nobody
no,
sends us.
let me say this.
Delhi, there
Let
are
me say-
journalists.
And there are journalists. That's it. Let me say this.
You can write English.
Journalists, not journalists, are called. Journalist is a kind of calling. When you are called into it, the way you operate will not be the same way those ones who go, the chop and chop journalists will operate. Yeah.
Okay.
There are journalists who studied history. Is it not relevant?
Study philosophy,
Is
psychology,
even
even economics.
It is relevant. Relevant in the field of journalism. When it will become a time when you need to talk about economy.
And don't forget that in journalism we have beats.
Beats, there are beats too.
Business beats, political
Sports
beats, sport beats,
So-
you know, economy,
Okay.
you know, all sorts.
Well, you know, when I started talking the other time, I said, journalist was saying we are the most learned.
Yes.
Because if a journalist
You know
reporting,
something about everything.
Everything.
if a
That's
journalist is talking about health, he will be talking medical.
Yes.
of course.
If a journalist is talking about economy or banking, as it were, he will be talking like a banker. So he will be reporting like a banker. So what I'm saying is that a journalist is called because
All in
ability to be able to
Fit into
into all the
sphere of human endeavors.
I mean,
Okay, but I want to talk about the bloggers. Are they helping journalism or not?
Well, you know, you see, we can categorize it into two classes. You know, there are some of them who are doing their jobs professionally. I tell you, but there are many. In fact, about 80% of them, they are just going overboard. They are going overboard. You are even talking about blogs. Now, there's something that is, you know, gaining momentum, and that is podcast.
yes, podcast.
And, you know, it's gaining momentum now.
Yes.
And, you know, all sorts is coming out from there. And, you know, even advertisers that normally give advert to radio and TV stations. They don't even give much to retail radio and TV stations. You know, the content creators have taken everything over.
Yes, sir.
You understand? Content creation is another area of journalism,
yes.
which is trending now.
I want to appreciate you.
And everybody can be a content creator in this country now.
Thank you very much. We cannot exhaust this particular profession of ours, full of challenges. We time appreciate you, Babatunde Bolaji. So thank you very much.
Thanks so much.
Second, Babatunde, the chairman of NUJ, we will continue to be the leader of the NUJ. Babatunde Fanoko, thank you very much. On behalf of the editorial advisor, Musarayo Yebayo, she said that we should thank you very much for spending almost an hour on this show. Likewise, producer Oluwatoyin Yusuf says thanks to you. On behalf of the entire crew, we appreciate every audience of this program. I'm just Adeleke Abijale saying bye for now.
Mondays to